sounds like Justice supposed to get stressed. Probably by the end of July.
Yeah, she says
Update. Brought to you by, I gave myself a title today. This is the official Splashback Operators Group text. Questions, comments, and concerns. We changed out the salt generator because we were dumping 2 bags a day.
The subject tonight is the proposed sale of the Bicentennial Apartments and the property tax exception for that same set of property. We're just looking for anybody that has any pros or cons or just statements, whatever, on the subject. Feel free to stand up and state your piece.
Thank you.
Oh, also say your name first, please.
Oh, well, I'm Margaret Valentine, and I have written a letter that stated some of the concerns that the residents have. And I don't know if you have a copy of that letter. If you don't, I brought extra copies with me for anyone that needs it.
It's in the packet. I put it in the packet. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have one?
Sure. Is there anyone else who'd like one? Good, I have one. Sure. First, I would like to apologize. I just found out today that Mr. John McGinley is the Ward 4 councilperson. I just went by what was on the city's website, so I guess it hasn't been updated. So if there's any other errors there, I apologize for that. So, as I stated in the letter, that most of the residents at Bicentennial found out about the sale, although we suspected it had been for sale for some time. But we found out about it from the Southwestern Montana News in a digital format on Facebook. Although I have discovered since then that an ad had been placed in the Dillon Tribune. However, in talking to residents there, no one saw the ad. So essentially, the first notice of all of this, for sure, was the digital newspaper. So there are some questions that we've had, and I understand in talking to management that it's going to remain a HUD apartment, which is really desperately needed in this area for senior living. However, I've not really been able to find some of the specifics, and these are questions that the residents in general, not just myself, but that the residents in general have as far as the sale. And I don't know if this is included in the HUD contract. I'm not really familiar with HUD contracts other than that it is on your individual income. So some of the things that they're concerned about is that it's not, in this area, as I'm sure you're all aware, it's very difficult to find a place to rent where you're allowed one pet. And for many of us who are single, many of us don't have family close by. And so that one pet that we have is our companion. It's our companion when we're feeling bad because many of us have medical conditions, or we're depressed or sad or whatever, but that pet is the one thing that we know is always there. It's there at 3 a.m., our pet is there at 5 a.m., whatever time of day or night, but that is our solace. So we've not really been given a specific whether we're going to be allowed to keep them. The other thing is, for most of us, we pay an extra $5 a month for the laundry. And we have laundry rooms on the second and the third floor. However, I've not been able to ascertain Is that going to remain? Is that actually in the HUD contract? I don't really know. Are coin-operated machines going to be put up there? That, we don't know either. And our parking, is it also going to remain at $5 or $15 for the covered parking? And the really big one is our utilities going to be covered in the rent. I know that's not usual for HUD apartments, but it has been a huge boon to all the residents there in the apartments. Because if we had to pay utilities on top of our rent, for many of us, that means, do we buy our medication or do we pay the rent? And at this point, we don't have to make that choice. We can get whatever medication we need, the extra co-pays for the specialty doctors that we have to see. So, these are the things that are just really huge concerns to all of us that have not been answered. And then, of course, the building manager. Right now, that's kind of in flux, and they're still looking for one. So I have no idea if a building manager is going to be brought from out of state, or someone from around here who understands the residents, the way people in Dillon, Montana live, and can understand the people around here. And I was told by management, because I did see on the website for Dawson Holdings that they do buy buildings and renovate them. However, I was told by management that renovations would not occur at Bicentennial because the building was rated as excellent by HUD. But our main concern with renovations are the fact that many of us have medical conditions, or paint fumes, new carpet, all that kind of stuff would be very bad for us to breathe. And there are environmentally safe ways to paint and environmentally safe carpets and other kinds of flooring that can be used. So those are our main concerns for the residents who live there currently, for the residents in the future who come in there. And we have not really heard anything. I'm also speaking on behalf of those who are in the market side. And there's some apartments that are in the market side. So, although they're the market side, many of them just missed HUD by $25 a month or $50 a month. So a huge increase in rent would put them out. And they really have nowhere else to go. So the concern is also for those on the market side. And that it should stay the way it is so that not just for the current residents, but for those in the future who live here in Dillon and Beaverhead County, that they will have an opportunity or a place that they can go to should they need to. So that is the main concerns that we would like to have addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. There's somebody else.
I'm on the floor. I'm Marlene Stonewright. It was kind of told me we need to talk tonight, but I've been on the board of Bicentennial since before we built the building, which started in 1975, actually. And most of you probably don't know it's called the Bicentennial because that is the year that we broke ground and it was built. And I apologize, Ms. Valentine, and any other residents who are here. This meeting caught us by surprise as well because, I'm not sure how it came about, but we had hoped to meet with the residents and discuss this with them and explain anything before anything became public. So I feel really bad that this happened and that you were caught off guard. Please know that what most of us on the board insisted on when this discussion came up was that whoever bought this building would understand that it's probably a little unique from many in the country, in that, as you said, people know each other in the community, care about each other. We've had a unique relationship with our tenants for all the years that this building has been in existence. They're more like family to us as well, and we've done unique things for them, special holiday dinners throughout the years, and barbecues in July, and gifts at Christmas, and gift certificates, and so forth. And we've maintained the building, as you said, in excellent condition, and you've probably seen that, and that's true. We get excellent reviews every year from those who oversee this HUD building. And we made sure that it was excellent for all of you who live there because we believe that that's what you deserve. If you don't know why this building exists, it exists because prior to the building of Bicentennial, there was what was called the Cabbage Patch in Dillon. And it was rows of cabins over there across the tracks. And the residents were people who were, by and large, they'd worked on ranches as sheep herders or ranch workers. And when they were done working, that's the only place where they could live. And there was a county health nurse who wanted to make sure that the people she was taking care of would have a safe, affordable place to live. So different people came together in the community and got this federal grant to have a building built. And through the years, we've had little turnover in management, and the board, those of us, like I said, I've been on it since I only had one child. And I now have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. It's been a long time ago. And anybody who got on it has stayed on it. Either they've died or maybe moved away, but it's been a joy to be a part of this. And I know that I personally am sad that this might change. We felt that going forward, it is more difficult to hire people who want to stay there and manage things. It is a complex endeavor. You know, it's not just managing the finances, but you're dealing with the upkeep of the building and the welfare of the residents. And it has become harder and harder. And I've been on it since 1975. Others have been on it for a long time as well. And it's difficult to find people who might want to meet on a regular basis, at least once a month, throughout the year, to make sure that our residents have a safe place to be. So we have been meeting with Ross and Holding. I assume you're representing them. And we are doing everything we can to ensure that you will have a building that is much like what you're living in now. That is our home. I don't know if I answered all your questions that I can answer now or not.
Thank you.
My name's Tim Fletch, and I'm with Dawson Holdings. And it is absolutely a spectacular treasure that you all built there. And our business is buying HUD and USDA properties and preserving them as affordable housing. There's always the risk of someone showing up and wanting to let the Section 8 go and moving these things to market. And we're a for-profit developer, but our mission is to preserve this type of housing for communities. So it's going to stay a Section 8. Everyone who has the section is in a Section 8 unit is going to pay the same rent they're paying now, which is basically 30% of their income. I'm going to look at this letter and go through this. We own properties in lots of small towns. Though Dillon's among the smallest. But we're very excited about the opportunity to buy this property, to preserve it as affordable, but also some of the systems are now 50 years old, and they've been maintained wonderfully, but we want this to be a property that will be affordable for the next 30 to 50 years. So we will be spending money on the heating and cooling systems and those sort of things. So it shouldn't be too disruptive for the tenants. We do, HUD has been increasing their requirements for accessibility. So we may be doing some accessibility modifications in units, but I understand the concern. We don't use toxic materials. Frankly, we try not to do things like new carpets and drapes while the tenants are still in the unit. It's very disruptive. Things are generally in good condition. We wait until there's a vacancy. We're negotiating with a couple of Montana property management companies to provide the on-site management. Preference would be to hire someone who is in the area and knows the community. terms of the pets, boy, I long ago learned not to get between one of my residents and their pet. I just, pets are fine. Pets are fine. The laundry, where everyone pays $5 a month, that's a goofy setup. I haven't seen that anywhere else. But we haven't thought about changing it, because then frankly, I'd have to hire a company that would put in coin machines, and I'm not sure that's going to be worth the trouble. We're not looking to increase the cost of parking. Utilities are going to continue to be included in the rent. We're not buyers and sellers of properties. We don't flip properties. I started with this company 25 years ago. Well, I started with this company when we started it 25 years ago. And we have sold 2 properties in that time. And we would expect, I'm hoping this property becomes some kind of estate tax problem for my children. So, we appreciate the support of the community in maintaining this property. Are there any questions that I could answer? And the reason the notice came so late is we're applying for federal tax credits, and Montana Board of Housing has a requirement that we set these hearings up before, and so we've been rushing around getting a lot of stuff done on short notice. After we get the tax credits awarded, we would expect to have a meeting with all the tenants to tell them what's going on. We always start by apologizing that you'll be living in the middle of some refurbishment, and if you ever, redid your kitchen, you know what that's like. But we try to minimize that, and we always do it with the tenants in place. Nobody gets pushed out while we do the rehab.
Well, if you have a question, I don't know what is there going to be another meeting for the council to decide on this, or is this?
This is more just, I think, by the rules, and Mr. Dolan can clarify, this is only, it's required as a hearing, and then we stand the record of the hearing to the Board of Housing to show that we've held it. I don't think there's any votes or.
There's no council decision here. It's just simply council has to hold
And I guess,
a public hearing.
my concern is Bicentennial Apartments and they're great supporter of the Dillon community, such as they've been donating money to the city police and lower taxes. If you guys become a nonprofit and not be paying any city taxes, do you plan on, and do you now, through your other holdings, pay lower taxes and donations towards fire department, police department?
Yeah, in many of our properties, we make a payment in lieu of taxes. We have to always see what the state laws allow us to do. Some states actually won't allow you to do that, but most of them are really cooperative. So I'd be happy to have those discussions. We would appreciate a resolution or a letter from the city to the Montana Board of Housing supporting our application to preserve this property.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Is it Mr. Fletch?
Fletch, yes.
Great.
I know, it looks like it's spelled incorrectly, but it's not.
Well, welcome. I was wondering, is it, what you're saying is that the same number of units that are Section 8 housing at this present time will remain?
Yes.
Section 8 housing.
And
And
we
the
would-
same number of units that are on the market side will remain on the market side.
Well, what we would actually like to do with those units over time, depending on the incomes of those tenants, is convert those to low income. They won't be rent assisted, but there'll be a ceiling to the rents. And we think that'll help some of the tenants.
But not Section 8.
But not Section 8. We've gone to the state and we're looking for additional Section 8, but right now they're telling us not yet.
I think you have to look at the obituaries for that.
Okay. Okay.
But Great. I think that what our concern, or at least what my concern is that we have these properties and we make them tax exempt, and so they do not contribute to the city. And we always hope that they will be generous to the city by contributing to different forces, whether it be police or fire or, those services that they use. You can't force people to do that, but we always hope that they will. But I always wondered, Mr. Mayor, how let's just say, if Bicentennial decided to let go of all of their Section 8 units and put them all at market value, how would we ever know that? And how would we ever convert it back then to a taxable enterprise?
If I may, so we'll be signing the intent is that we would be signing a regulatory agreement with HUD for an extension of the contract for an additional 20 years, or for a new 20 years. And we would be signing basically a deed restriction, a regulatory agreement with the Montana Board of Housing that would also require us to preserve it as affordable housing. And I believe I know it's at least 30 years, and it may be 55. I'd have to double check, but so those would be, the property would be restricted for a long time. And how you would know is everyone would start calling you.
I don't even have a problem.
That part gets solved quickly. But yeah, no, we want to have those restrictions on the property to help preserve it long term. And that actually helps us get favorable financing, both from the state and also agencies like Fannie Mae. Actually, it'll give me a lower interest rate if I do an affordable housing project. Your tax dollars at work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Are we done?
I'm done. Thank you.
Is there any other comment from anybody else in the audience? Either pro or con, or questions of them?
So, Mr. Mayor, would we just do a simple motion tonight, or would we have a resolution at the next meeting? Or
I could write a resolution, put it in next meeting, and you guys could then.
he would like it would help him if you had a resolution from the city council, correct, Mr. Fletcher?
That's correct.
It's either from the councils, or I could write one too. So either one, I don't care.
Would you
I
like
gotta
a
write
motion?
one of the weeks.
Would you like a motion?
Not
This
in
is
the
a
business.
hearing, this is a hearing, not a meeting.
Right.
Oh, that's right, thank you.
Is there any other comments, either pro or con? Or questions for him? Second call for any other further comments? Pro or con, or staff, questions, statements? Third and last call for the public hearing. For any other comments or any other information. Okay, recess the meeting, or the hearings. We'll take 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll start the regular meeting.
Thank you. We will set up a meeting with the tenants. We usually wait until a little further along in the process, because we're running, as you might know, we're running architects and engineers and everyone through. And I hate to tell people that we're gonna do something, but I don't know exactly what, you know, but. Oh, no,
Especially if they come in and they want to see us, they have the right to.
Now we just started.
So that's why I've learned, just like Don has. That's only happened during one, so.
I was gonna try and squeeze a word in. Oh, good.
Oh, you mean?
Commercial.
Bunch of weed.
For me,
What is the doc? Type up the docket.
You have one picture of insulation.
that's your crawl space. That's your basement.
How did you get in?
The key and I push the door open. And I fought myself through all the cobwebs and the jungle bunnies and spiders, ants.
So the key was to the back door?
I don't have the padlock, but the man door, the garage door itself. That's the same key to the front door that uses the basement door. You just gotta push it in and climb down the ladder. Little lights push down there. That's your crawl space.
It's nice to feel
I don't even think that was.
I'll be the first guy to play in the yard. We drive up.
I'll start the regular meeting of City Council to order for 7 o'clock for July 7th, 2021. Yeah, lead us in a pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item, minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Dan, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
Need to add Diane on to the list of the council president, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
under number 3, there's a sentence down there that said there was some discussion about Fire Chief Closey inspecting fireworks stands and requiring fireworks stands to obtain a transient vendor license from the city of Dillon. I don't remember it as I remember it just as that you were going to do that, right?
I wasn't here, so I can't say yea or nay on the discussion that was had.
So that didn't happen?
That did happen, but I have no idea what happened in the meeting.
Okay, yeah. That's what my understanding was that Chief Closey would inspect the stands and that they would be checked for whether they had the correct license, the itinerant license.
Right, and that's what it said.
Oh, I thought it just said that there was some discussion about it.
Yeah. There were a few people wanting the fire chief to do it. And I said, I'll talk to the fire chief and do it, which I did, and he did it. And that was the discussion that we had. Any other?
Call for question.
Question's been called for to approve the June 16, 2021 regular meeting of the City Council as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Take it as unanimous. Okay, next item. There was a handout from the election administrator that declared by the number of people that's filed for the positions in the city, that there will be no primary election. So it's just going straight from primary version up to the general now. So there will be one and only one election that we have to pay for. With those people.
Mr. Mayor, is this a complete list?
And that's what she sent me, I believe it is, but I know it's been, Russ is on it,
Yes.
so, under in the Ward 2 part. You can see she sent this June 22nd,
Correct.
so, and I think she might have just went off what the computer said at 5 o'clock, which he probably came right in at 1 minute to her.
2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes too.
So we should add Russ Swant to the Ward 2
Yes.
Warrior.
for a year. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I did for that.
Okay, that was just for information. Also, it's in fact on how she made the decision, explains that.
Okay, now, isn't one of these ward twos? Oh, no, never mind. 3 of them running for 1 seat.
Right.
The rule is over 3.
But you had to be over 3 to have the primary. Okay? Okay, next item, mayor's report, is to approve the agreement between the city of Dillon and the Police Officer Association.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
So is this being intimidated with all the police?
Mr. Mayor, what's different in this other than just the pay increase?
There's a couple, if you look, there's some lines that they changed. They changed some, just better ways of saying something. I mean, the lines show, of course, they show the date change and all that. We added parts that cost money is, find it.
It's the voluntary physical fitness program.
Yeah, where is that?
At the
It's
very
H.
end.
12, it's on page 12.
Yeah, I or J, yeah, I. That was added. That one negotiated, they wanted a couple other items that to me really covered only one individual, and I didn't really like that. I wanted to have all the police force have a shot at making one of them. Like one was a trainer or something, and only one would be trainer. So they might get extra money being a trainer, but only one would be. So the rest of them wouldn't have a chance unless the one quit. This one, no, everybody has a shot, and if they follow these rules, they will get, what was it, 250? 250, yeah. That's per year, just a flat amount, 250. Also, the compensation went up, i.e. their salary, they're also the addendum A. The police chief sat with me, convinced me along with the officers that, and looking at some of the data, the reason I went and increased it, if you look at their addendum, which is the whole scale for their salaries, went from starting when probationary was 18, we increased it, if you guys vote for it, to 20. And then everything else just went up $2. So that's how the change happened. We changed the beginning from 18 to 20, and then from then on, everything went up $2. Well, that was the plan. I think it met that criteria.
I thought it looked like it was some kind of percentage of the it isn't a straight $2.
Would you like me to kind of explain?
Yes, and you can answer.
Okay, yeah, I can answer it. So what happened is, looking at other cities and counties and whatnot, we were all very, very low into it. And so the agreement that they had prior started at $18, and then after you're confirmed, it went to $20. And then you get 1% every year, and then a 5 at the intervals of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So that has remained the same. And then but the starting wages went up $2 each. So it is incremental, it's 19 cents or something like that, but it is incremental. And when we did that prior, the mayor and I talked about it a few years back, is that then we know what we're budgetary, we know what we're gonna come up against. And then of those 5 years is we felt that was a mechanism to keep people here. You want to stay to your 5 years, so you get your 5%. 10 years would be your 5% increase. So that's what that's kind of how that was born.
So, can you school me a little bit? So that, this means that there are automatic increases each year, whether they be 1% or that 5-year 5% or?
Yes, and that was a cost of living. The cost of living increase is actually a lot higher, but from what I recall is when they did negotiations, they agreed to 1%. So instead of having cost of living every year, they went down to 1% to the raise when that happened. However many years ago it was. But I have all the projections, and I have all the starting wages of other counties or other cities, excuse me, in comparison to ours. And we're still, our benefits are good, so that's I think where we're
Well, I wondered if that, the benefits are excellent. I wondered if that 90% plus on the health insurance side that the employer pays, is that across the board with all employees, or is that just with the police?
No, that's all the police and what we call the city, even though police are city employees. I didn't come up with the name of the contracts.
Is that the same, Mr. Mayor, in terms of sick leave and holiday pay, that kind of, are those, the rules that are written in this agreement, do they cross over and are the same for regular city employees?
No. Mainly it's because officers have to work holidays, all days, or when they're scheduled. So and I can't tell exactly how it's handled. The chief comes up with the schedule and he calculates what everybody gets, but for overtime and that.
It's calculated pretty much the same, but like the mayor said that we work holidays, so that does become different. And looking at it too is on, we had to decide, is it the holiday when a person starts their shift or when they end their shift because it starts at midnight? I mean, because you're looking, this is what you got. So this is who works 24 hours, 7 days a week. This is who's, protecting everybody. So, you get dealing with what we're doing, Title 10, this is what we have, all other stuff is going on as well. But the holiday pay and all that it's basically the same as any other place. Yeah.
I just thought it was incredibly well written and lots of, where you come into conflict, like on split vacations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You had answered those questions.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to make one minor change in it on the, I guess, sell the correct spot, I'm going to talk here. Basically on page 13, under Article 14, this won't be fully accepted and in effect until after the budget is completed. So we know we've got money to pay it.
So how do you want to change the wording? Because it gets a little tough if you guys vote on it. The budget doesn't come until September.
I know, but if we don't have the money to pay it, it doesn't do any good to write a contract. That's what I'm saying.
There was a deal that was made that we're gonna cut the police budgets. This increase is about $30,000 that's spread across in that ballpark. And so we're gonna find some cuts in the police budget, not salary cuts, but to cut that down.
Still, we have to have money in the budget to pay them, no matter what it is.
Well, we're still with the money in the budget, and we can't find the cuts, and we're bringing off police officers until we get to that.
We're gonna be laying off personnel someplace, you're right.
So where will that come from?
We'll have to negotiate that. It's the council. But right now, you're giving away money that you don't have.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm not, I think this is a fair compensation package. I think everybody gets a living wage out of it. I like it, okay? Just that, as head of finance, I'm concerned we got the money in the budget to do it. I don't have a problem doing it, as long as we got the money to do it. And I think there will be, but in case there isn't, we need to kind of protect ourselves.
And that's what was brought up during discussion, was City of Dillon is about the last in the state on how much money we have coming in general fund. And no offense, the police mainly come out of general fund, aside from the 2 officers that are the special levy. Okay, so, and I will look, you guys pass it, and by the statement, by the budget, it's like we've done before, when you pass something to tell me to do it, pretty hard to say you're not gonna do it when it's budget time. That pretty much is locked in, that will be done. We might have to cut some other things, but if you vote on it tonight, you voted to a contract, that contract overrides all this. So we gotta make the budget work if you vote on it. I mean, I don't really think we should say in there that it's not effective, because then what does that mean at your guys' vote? When you're voting on a contract.
All I'm saying is we can go ahead and allow it, just that when the budget's done, if we need to renegotiate, we need to have that ability to do it.
And the kicker comes into play is when we do, you vote on the contract, what salary do we use for July?
What's currently in this contract that you're asking us to sign.
And August, the same? So right there, we've already used 2 months of this without a budget, and then state law allows that. I mean, because up to the point where you have to by law pass the budget. So the way I see it is, you guys vote on it, you signed up to a contract. Oh, by the way, the contract is 1 year. They went along with it. So the new mayor gets to have the fun. Which it might not be any more of it, it might be a lot more, who knows? They'll want. But I just didn't think it was right for me to go through and negotiate for 3-4 years and hold the new person that's coming in to have to put up with whatever. So, I mean, to me, when you vote on it and you got a contract, you just do the contract, and you gotta find a cut somewhere else if it's needed. And I promised we're gonna find the cuts to come up with 30,000.
It's not in this contract how many police officers there has to be.
Yeah.
So, that's why I said, if push comes to shove, and there is no money come budget time, I mean, we're all kind of spoiled now, because we had all this big culvert money, and that, when the culvert money's gone, and there is no tax money, there is no choice but to start laying people off. I mean, so, if the police department budget is $20,000 short, that would translate into 1 officer of the 730,000 or whatever.
Other salaries around 40, so.
Okay, well, so if we don't come up with that much money and the police officer, the police budget is that short, that would translate into 1 less officer. I mean, there's no other way around it, I can see.
I'd be looking to retire at that point to freeze up some money, so that's,
Okay, well, I mean, you understand, I'm not,
yeah, yeah, it's.
I said the same thing when they negotiated the contract with the city employees too. You know, the taxpayers, the city of Gilman pay so much money and there's no, we can't raise their taxes unless we have a sudden influx of business and expand our city limits where we've got more taxes coming in. We have a limited amount of pool of money to spend.
And you know, I just don't want to get, I don't want to get into the weeds as far as, we just hired a new officer, I don't want him to be stressed out about
Right,
that.
well,
So that's why I'm saying that
Right,
if
and
we're
I
coming
don't
towards, I'll
think-
pull the
right.
plug.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't mean to that either. I like a new officer.
yeah, yeah.
But I guess I'm.
If anybody's losing their job, it'll be me.
I guess, Mr. Mayor, I didn't want it to become such a personal thing, but usually when we have these things on the agenda, you have some very good ideas about where the cuts will come from, where it will come from in the budget. Do you have some ideas, some of those ideas?
No, not right now, I'm going through the process, I'm not done. Next week, I'm shooting for, I mean, a big chunk of it's gonna come from the police budget. Big cut. I'll try to find it some other places too. I have some things that I'm gonna try to present to the people, to the council. That might alleviate for a year or two.
But that's,
I can't go beyond that. Of course, I only got my time 6 months, less than 6 months. But I'll try to get you guys all set up right. I don't try to do anything wrong. And I can tell you, I think I got the money to keep it going for 2 more years. And then you're gonna have to find cuts if you don't have some other ways of doing stuff. And I'll show you guys when it gets budget time in the finance committee. And it's not creative adjusting numbers because I'm not a creative budget person. That to me, when you say that, means you're breaking the law. And I don't. At least I don't normally do it. So,
Call for the question.
Well, I have a question. Is some of the relief fund monies available to help us out?
well, that's what the ARPA, the ARPA, since you guys are dragging it out at me, you can use it to pay for essential workers. The police have been classified by the federal government as essential workers. So what I plan on presenting to the council is we'll pay the whole salary plus as much benefits as we can out of all of them, and that includes the police levy amount once. So we'll cut the police levy down this year, so we'll tax the people less. We'll use the ARPA funds, okay, to pay for the salary and benefits, which is allowed by the rules. Okay, and then we had a bunch of questions on what we were going to do or how the projects that you guys have. Well, by doing this, that just removed the burden, whatever you want to. Burden is not a bad word with you guys, so that's not meant that way. But we would have that much money sitting in the general fund to be spent on what the council so wants. And so right now we got 549,000 and some dollars sitting in, or will be sitting in the general fund. We have it in the fund, I can't remember the number, 4026 I think, isn't it? Something like that. You'll see it when you see the budget. We already have the money in hand. And what I project to do is we'll just spend it on salaries and benefits for the police. And we have that. We have more than enough to do it. So, and then we're going to get another 549,000 next year. So that's what I was saying. We have 2 years that we can cover it with no problem without having to worry about cutting anything. I'll still cut it just to piss off Geigerson.
But didn't expect anything less from you. And I have to say too, that it wasn't an easy sell because the mayor is always looking at that bottom line. So we had some heated discussions about things. But when it came down to it, and talking to the mayors, we feel we needed to do this as a financial, insulation for us. Because people are leaving, and people will leave if you can walk across the hall for $4.50 an hour more when you start. So we looked at what the cost was to train somebody new, to get somebody new, to go through that. And it is my honest and sincere belief, it costs us less in the long run. It costs us less in the long run. We'll still lose people. I mean, any of you guys leave, I'll kill you. I leave next. I don't want to go through this anymore. But I think that we do that, and I can honestly say, and I've said this to you guys before, and these guys haven't been here, when I do it, but you guys have a great police department. And I'm not saying that because I'm the head of it. It's because of these guys and the people that they are, and gals that are in our department. It's not me, it's them, because we've made this, we've just made it that we are hiring good people, and we'll teach them to be caught. Any monkey can write a ticket, but it takes really,
He does it.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I can't even write a ticket anymore. I don't think. But how they behave and how they respond to people is, you guys would be very, very proud how they deal with people. People always make mistakes, and they do. And they all come and tell me before I ever even know it. And that's what you want. That's the people you want, and we have them. I don't want to lose them because of a dollar or two.
And that's why I went this way, is I believe really truthfully, I think I hired every one of you guys. The only ones I think I hired you even. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Besides Mr. Alvarez, I think you just started right before I became. But then I think you got confirmed 1 year comfort with under mine. So you can see, and I believe we picked the best, and I think we had the best. And we don't want to lose them. Because the next time we lose them, we might not get the best. So that's the main reason I went with this recommendation to you guys.
So page 11. D, post-certificate pay. The figure 50 and 75 needs to be bracketed and spelled out. Continuation to page 12, the very last line, number 2, that figure needs to be bracketed and spelled out as well. 250,
Okay.
please.
Any other discussion?
Call the question.
Question's been called for to approve the agreement between the City of Dillon and the Police Officer Association. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, take that as unanimous. You guys now have a 1 year contract at this amount, or that's changed. And I will write a letter to the, I don't remember his name.
Oh, Jeff Cowie.
Yeah, that's Jeff, wasn't it?
Yep.
I'll write one to Jeff on what they recommend. I doubt it's gonna change anything, because maybe it's just putting text in front of it.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's
So,
fine. Thank you, Mr. Senator.
so then it'll go through the signature time. Or I think you guys, or have you voted on it and accepted it, or are you guys gonna have to do that?
As a department?
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Okay,
Yep.
and we're really close to being done.
It's
Yeah, it's on.
Mr. Mayor and everyone here today, on behalf of the police department, we all want to thank you very, very much for looking this over and considering it and improving this raise for all of us. We truly do appreciate it. I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, Next is the reports of officers of Washington City Library Board, Mr. McGinley.
We had a meeting on the 29th. Minutes aren't there, but these are from the last two meetings before I was a member of it. I've asked it to get approved.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ to approve the 2 meeting minutes. Discussion.
John, it does show you were there on the 11th.
I was there on the 11th as sit-in. I was unofficially told I was going to be on the board.
Call for the question.
Yeah, I counted, but I wasn't on the board.
The question has been called for to approve or accept the May 25th, 2021 and the June 11th, 2021 meeting minutes of the library board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. I take that as unanimous. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on. City Attorney, Mr. Dolan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a general report. Last Friday, I filed a petition for a temporary injunction against Mr. Skradsky with regard to the zoning matter. That matter is going to proceed. I can't wait to remember when that hearing is to be on. I have spent the bulk of the day looking into the matter of the flood family minor subdivision that the county approved recently, and we'll be working further on that probably tomorrow. Other than that, the criminal work proceeding as usual, and I guess I should thank Mr. Reagan for using my name in a manner that got him an award. So saw that in the paper today. But anyway, I'd be happy to take questions.
I originally used it as long Dole. You probably wouldn't appreciate that.
But one of my law professors called me Doles.
Okay, move on, thank you. Planning Board, Mr. Hand.
No meeting, no report. Our last meeting was canceled due to lack of a quorum. We're going to try it again Thursday night.
Tomorrow night. Okay, thank you. Zoning Commission, Mr. Graham.
Well, we had a meeting,
No minutes, yeah, minutes, yeah. Okay, thank you. Director of Operations, Mr. Hazelbaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple small, just big things.
Please use your microphone, Mr. Hazelbaker.
Jason Erickson is our new Parks Animal Control bus driver, jack of all trades. He survived 8 days. So he seems to be doing his work and doing an excellent job. So I appreciate him being on board. Congratulations for that. The bus, we had 764 riders in June. It's the most we had since January of 2020. So things are looking up in the bus. What's kind of interesting is that it's those that are 59 and younger is what's bringing the increase back. Everything else has been pretty steady, but so it's the younger folks. So. And then, as you all know, water restrictions went in place. That has been a good thing. The reserves are improving. So the restrictions are working. And also I'd like to congratulate Mr. Reagan for being an award-winning journalist. It's pretty cool stuff. Even though sometimes I'm not sure what meetings is at.
I went to the ones where they handed out the awards.
But no, we appreciate the news coverage you get. So that'd be happy to answer any questions.
Have you adjusted the water on the sprinklers on Swenson Lake? It was going on at 11:30 and 12 o'clock all week.
Okay, no, didn't know that, so we can do that.
And West Side Park is in water still.
Why don't we just check all the parks and make sure we got them all set, right?
Well, it's hard to tell people not to water when the city's got all their sprinklers and everything running. It's nice to lead by example.
Oh, yeah, no, that's, I agree.
So the reserves in the water tank are improvements since the restrictions gone on?
Yes,
Okay.
we were,
I just noticed people fudging. I just wondered if more people are watering more because of it. So if they're improving, good.
we'd like to be at 22 feet roughly in that area. And we were pretty dang steady at 12, which is, well, we went to 6 for a day or two. And so we jumped back up to 12. And that's what was just an alarm, and that if we were to have a main break or a major fire, impact that would have on the water system. So that's why I felt that the restrictions should go into place. Since then, we are at 17 and improving each day.
Was that a leak that was fixed down there at the motel, in the parking lot?
That was a service line that broke. And a big thank you to Stan and Nick Kuchek for taking care of them. It's a holiday, hard to find plumbers. They stepped up and helped them because I understand that would have been Super 8's first full night since before COVID. So they prevented them having to turn away people, so they deserve kudos for that. That is something we do not normally do, is to help with service lines, but in this case,
Well, there's
they
no
did.
plumber around. So I made the decision. There's no plumbers around that can come there, especially ones that had equipment to dig up the line. So I got a hold of the owner and talked to the owner. And told him, you gotta pay, you'll be paying overtime, all the staff, including benefits. And we're gonna charge her for all of that, the time, the equipment. And she agreed, and she wanted it stopped. I did it to be nice, but also we're losing a lot of water. That was before the meter, so we weren't getting money for it. We're keeping track, so it needed to be done, and it wouldn't have been done until Tuesday, yesterday.
That's a 2-inch water line, isn't it?
It's a 2-inch water line, it was copper, and the copper just rotted.
It shot up.
You ruined it, the new water park?
I know, right? It was the new one. Hotel water park.
So that's what happened there. Sorry, didn't want to.
well, fine.
Thank you.
Any questions? Or are you done? You
Fine. Sure, I'm done. I've been told I talk too much anyways.
I gave you a choice.
I don't think,
It was in the shot
I
up.
give Chief Giverson my extra time. Oh, yeah, don't do that.
Okay, we'll move on if there's any questions. So now.
Thanks, Mr.
Next one, Police Department, Chief Garrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a report. I have a few things that I'd like to just make the council aware of. Our criminal cases are going up. Our felonies are going up a little bit. We're still trying to get our feet under us with the situation at the county attorney's office. We do, however, have a deputy county attorney out of Hamilton that's working with us, and actually it's working a lot better than I would have anticipated through emails and Zoom and all this kind of stuff. So it's going better than we thought. And our overtime, I want to get in front of you because I know you're going to ask me. Our overtime was up this week or this month, and that was because of a few different things. One being is Kylie's still gone with the National Guard. I'm not sure exactly when she's coming back, and I'm hoping to hear soon. And also Bowman meeting didn't start till this month, so we have those as well as we had the derby go on, we had a couple people get sick. Cody was out for surgery, so we had to fill those out. So it was a little bit higher this year, or this month, or last month, than it hopefully will be. So with that, you know, they're doing good. We're running short, but we're running still. So if you have any questions, I'd be more happy to answer them.
Actually, I do have a question.
What?
Because I've had a couple of people approach me regarding the Trump train running the stop signs. Is there any way to, I mean, because they don't have a parade permit.
Right.
I haven't seen it myself, but I've had a couple of people approach me because they're concerned, you know, if they're all running it, somebody's going to get hit.
Sure, yeah, and I wasn't, well, I actually have been told that. I'll reach out to the organizers of the event and let them know if it doesn't change that there will be citations being issued. I have no problem with that. They have to follow the rules just like everybody else does.
Thank you.
And they're really technically not a parade.
Yeah.
Because we didn't close any streets, they're just driving down. That's where it became kind of a really crazy area. You just keep, they're supposed to follow traffic laws.
Yep, it'll be taken care of.
Yeah.
By the time we leave this meeting.
Any questions for the chief? Or any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Fire Department, Fire Chief Closey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet, you'll find the call log for the month of June. We had 10 calls for the month of June, which is right in our average. But I'm feeling not so skeptical for July. We're already at 5 for the month of July. And we went into stage 1 fire restrictions countywide midnight last night. So that is going to, I don't know that that's going to matter. People have been fairly safe, I guess, if you will, or careful so far. But with the lightning that was going on the last few days, I'm just waiting. Any questions?
Chief, where are we at in total dollars worth of equipment lost or homes lost? This stage?
For the fiscal year, or?
For the fiscal year.
I will have to get that to you. I don't, right off the top of my head. I will get that to you.
It seemed like it was down, that's why I was curious.
I would say it's down from probably a 5-year average. We've had a pretty good year in the last year. But our numbers of calls have increased by a fair margin. So I'm going to say our average probably instead of 120 this fiscal year is going to be 150 plus. So October was terrible. We had, I think it was 28 or 29 calls in the month of October. So. But the dollar values have not been real high.
That's because you guys get there so quick. That helps. That helps. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else? All right, thank you.
City clerk is not here. Treasurer's not here. Tree board. Here we go, yeah.
I hope we don't meet during the summer. I hope everyone noticed, or I hope you'll notice, that we completed Swenson Way, or at least the project for this year. I think my gap tells me it was just last Friday, but it may have been the Friday before. We finished laying out sod, and we planted the trees. And one of the reasons that the sprinkler's gone off on unusual times is if you drive where we did it this year, we have these like an inverse circle this way, and then it goes an inverse circle that way, and then and as Billy Allen said, the sprinklers are one click off on each side. If we could just turn that and go one more click, then the sprinklers would hit all the lawn, but they're one click off. So he was trying to run them extra heavy so that the water would leach out to the edge of the new sod. And he was only gonna do that for a week, but I'm glad Raymond brought it up so that we could get that taken care of. But that was the reason why, is that he needed to overwater that brand new sod because of the crazy circles, or kind of open circles that we have. And next year we'll complete that project. So that's it.
Thank you.
And it looks really nice over there. I know the gal mowing, she has it all the time. She needs a propelled lawnmower. That new grass is hard for her to push that mower through that.
Oh, she doesn't have a propelled one.
No, she's
Running all the way through. She's approached me today, and I'm gonna put it in the budget,
Yeah.
you know, to get probably like a 36-inch deck. Because the ones we got are bigger, and so she can't fit it down with the trees. It's just too narrow. And you're right, hers is a push that, there is no motor wheels, it's just, no, it's just push. So she was doing that whole, at least all the grass one, push. She said, today I about took it out of her.
And that's a
I
lot
walked
of
by her
area.
today and she was,
Yeah. So we're gonna, I told her to go get a price check and then bring it, and we'll be on the budget. And hopefully you guys will feel sorry for her and get her.
You're gonna get her zero turn so she can go around the trees and sit over them?
I'm not sure they make them that small, but we'll look.
well, some of those,
Good rider, yeah.
Oh, you're gonna get a rider?
some of those zero turns, they're heavy. I mean, Husqvarna makes a 36. I used one at the Villa when I worked there. And it worked really nice, but if you had just watered, you know, like a day before, you can see your tracks because it's heavy enough. She'd be better off with one like I saw on Facebook, one of the John Deere ones that's 77. It's a lightweight, it's a lighter weight.
25.
Those zero turns are heavy. And they work nice, chipping wrong, but they are a little bit on the heavy side, especially for new grass and stuff.
Okay. Let's move on. Reports of standing committees of the city council, judiciary, Mr. Nye.
Yes, before you have minutes for June 15th, as per your approval.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Russ. Discussion. Question has been called for to approve the June 15th, 2021 meeting minutes of the Judiciary Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. I take that as unanimous.
And also, we have one item that needs to be taken care of. Approve the first reading of the ordinance for Title 10, vehicle and traffic.
Move to approve.
Second. It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Raymond. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a couple of things. The first one is just a clarification, and it would be on page 2, and it would be at the end of D. And that chapter is not, the chapter is correct, chapter 17, but it's not 108, it's 6.4. 6.4 describes the different commercial districts in town, and it also gives an intent for each one, which is the closest we have. The intent is the closest we have for a definition of what the central business district is. So it would be at 1764.
Okay.
The other one, the other question I would bring up, and this is just the first reading, but I thought before we involve the public, we should discuss it, and it would be on page 15. And maybe if people haven't had time to read this whole section, we might want to put it off for a meeting so that people can become pretty knowledgeable about the limited, what we call the limited load zones. And that starts at 17.76.020. And I guess I don't have any problems with this as it's written, except until we get to 17.76.050, special permits to exceed the limit. The first one is just a special permit that you can go in and buy. You can go in and get it from the Director of Operations, but no one ever sees that list. We talked about it, we couldn't really come up with a good way of overseeing that list. It's a one-day permit. You have up to 48 hours to use that permit. But I was hoping that we could add a sentence in there where it came to the city council, or at least we would be made aware of who had those special permits. And I'm sure that on this part of the ordinance, I did not express myself well. So that's why. And so the next part of it that I really, in talking with citizens in several different wards, where there's a real problem is the idea of annual permits. They make the idea of annual permits is you come in to the Director of Operations, and now the fee for an annual permit will be set by resolution each year. But in the past, it's been $10. So you just come into the Director of Operations, you get an annual permit for $10, and you can drive wherever you want in excess of 24,000 pounds. And it makes the whole idea of having even this section, the limited load zone, superfluous. I mean, it's unnecessary. The reason we have those zones is because we have many streets and many areas in Dillon that are residential, and those streets are not built to carry great big trucks in excess of 24,000 pounds. I believe that they're not built for in excess of 12,000 pounds. But I lost that battle, and I'm going to go with my colleagues who suggest 24,000 pounds, so we'll go with that. But if the idea is you could just come in for $10, get an annual permit, and you can drive wherever you want, why should we even have the idea of limited load zones? I think we need to have those zones, and they're mainly in the residential areas so that we protect those streets. And the reason we want to protect those streets is that it is a safety issue, a safety for the people who live in those areas, for the police and for ambulance to come to and from those areas. And as we all know, because we watch the concerned citizen reports, we've had 2 concerned citizen reports of broken down curbing and gutters on Washington Street for better than 2 years. These streets are not built to have those great big loads. And we kind of have designated we've designated on page 14 a whole bunch of areas where people can drive those great big trucks in excess of 24,000 pounds, and where that gives them ample opportunity to travel all over Dillon without going into the residential areas. So I would like to either send back to the Judiciary Committee for us to continue to either delete the idea of annual permits, which probably is what needs to happen. I guess, and my reasoning is just that the whole annual permits make this whole section superfluous.
The one thing you need to realize too is if you order a truckload of topsoil and he has to stay on these truck routes, you're not going to wheelbarrow the dirt 2 blocks down the street.
That's where you have a special permit. You get a special permit, which is good. It's a one-time permit. You get to use that anytime in the next 48 hours. And then they can deliver those rolls of sod right to your home. And you don't have to wheelbarrow a thing, Don.
That's true. Are you going to pay the additional fee?
I think that they'll probably charge that to the customer. Yeah.
Because you're basically talking an extra $50 fee for somebody to come out and get the permit, pay for the permit, and then have it available in case somebody wants to see it.
I don't
Per
think it-
vehicle per day.
No, I think it's been in the
And there's only a few trucks to do that.
Well, in the past, it's only been $10.
Okay, it doesn't matter. But you still, by the time you tie up your rope, you're talking better than $50 a day per project.
Well, I don't believe, I think your numbers are off, but I think that those are fees that are passed on to the customer.
That's correct.
I want to talk about the protection and maintenance of our residential streets.
I don't believe there's a safety issue with the trucks at all. Most of them hit those city streets are slowed way down. The second thing is if you're going to get down Clark Street and you can't make the corner off Atlantic, there's no other way to get down there to deliver a load of grain. You have to go a different route. And that's why they come down Washington Street.
Well, no, they don't need to, they can come down Atlantic Street.
You can't get off Atlantic onto Cornell or onto Clark to get down to the granary.
Well, you can when cars are not parked all the way up to the corner, when they have legally parked 20 feet back. Then trucks can make that turn just fine.
No, you can't see. It's a dangerous intersection. I encourage you to come take a ride with me in a semi. You'll find it is very scary pulling out onto that corner, especially with the tilt of the road. But in the wintertime it's slippery, there's no chance because the city can't sand it well enough.
They have done it for years. They continue to do it. I spoke with Mr. Graham and said, is this a problem?
Mr. Graham doesn't drive the truck.
He is, and neither do you, Don.
Yes, I do. I drive Lowboy out of there.
Well, I want you to know that he has said that it's just fine to turn off from Atlantic onto Cornell and I watch every morning. I watch the Thompson boy, he's 40 years old, but Philip. I watch Philip make the turn from Atlantic Street onto Dillon, and he does just fine.
He's not driving a semi.
He's driving, but sometimes he's driving not only an oil truck, but it's an oil truck that's pulling another whole rig that has oil in it.
Phil Thompson doesn't. Cenex might, but Phil Thompson doesn't have one.
They get deliveries in those.
And they don't come in that way either.
They do. They come right down Dillon Street. I live right there. They come right down Dillon Street.
But not Clark Street.
But they come down, well, that's because all Thompson oil comes in on Dillon Street. It doesn't come in on Park Street.
That's correct. She can't make the corner.
They make it every morning, Dawn.
Not on Park Street.
One of the nice things about the annual permit is it allows the R.A. Millers, Thompson Distributing to come in and get permits for each of their trucks that come through town. One of the things that if you don't have the annual permits, you're looking at R.A. Miller coming in basically every day to get a permit to drive through town. All these companies. And in November, and how the process works is Stacy sends out a letter to roughly 20 businesses that have trucking through the community, and they are expected to get them back, send them back by the 31st of December. And then they are permitted out. From that point, they have to carry them in their truck if they were to be pulled over by State of Montana Department of Transportation or the local police department. Right, to pull them over to check on them. So it's a benefit to them to get an annual permit, because then they don't have to come in each time they have to drive through town. So that's one of the benefits of the annual. And it's $20 or less, not 10, so.
But those trucks do cause damage in the city of Dillon. They break down the curbing and the gutters. And as the mayor has told me repeatedly, we do not have the budget for repairing those curbs and gutters. And so there's the homeowner stuck with crumbling curbs and gutters. And it's caused by the big trucks.
That curb that you're talking in reference to was there when they bought the house that way. It's not a new issue.
There are two areas on Washington Street, and I watched the truck go over the area on the 500 block of Washington Street. I mean, I watched him go forward, and then he got stuck, and he went backward over it, and he knocked the curb right out. You know, so there is damage that the city is unable to take care of, Don. That those streets were not built for those big rigs. We have given them tons of ways to get through town.
You didn't give them alternates though.
We have given them plenty of ways to get through town.
No, you haven't, that's the problem.
Well, you and I are gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Well, is this a motion or not?
I
We have a
would,
motion
those
being
are,
discussed.
yeah, this was the discussion, and those are the two this is the area that I have a problem with. I think the public has a problem with. If we need to hear from the public, we should. If we can't make this decision, we should hear from the public.
With what Dan was saying, is this a motion that you want to amend?
Well, I move that we table this discussion of Chapter 10 and maybe take it up again after the Judiciary Committee has had a chance to look at this section and maybe hear from the public.
So your motion is to table and send it back to judiciary.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Well, there is no discussion on table.
Okay.
So are you still seconding? Robert's rule says if you make a table motion, that stops all discussion. That's why it's one of the bigger type of motions.
Right. Which means we won't see this again for another 2 months.
If it passes, you won't.
And this has already been in the judiciary for almost a year.
More than a year.
we fight over the same thing every time. And I felt, and Raymond felt, that it was time that we send it to city council and let them decide. Because we cannot come to an agreement on this, period. And therefore, we need other people's opinions and make the changes here, instead of sending it back to us again. So like you said, who knows when we'll see it again. Could be a couple of months, might be 6 months. The way things go, I'm betting closer to the 6 month.
Mr. Nye, I remember you giving that discussion, and I agree with you. I rescind my motion. You're right. We need to make this decision at the council level.
Have you polled your second?
Yeah.
Then I poll it, and I will allow you to poll your motion. Since the second's gone.
This is the first reading. Am I correct that we'll have a second reading? And we'll have input from the public before the second reading?
Public actually could have come and had input tonight if they wanted.
Correct.
But there will be another one.
We thought we'd start here and do it easy.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I got a couple points here. Also on page 15, under the authority to lower weight limits, last sentence, last word, is that the correct word?
Where?
Or should it be more rather than less?
Probably more. I'd say more. Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
Is that what the council agrees?
Yeah.
It should probably be more.
No, well, this is where he has the discretion to lower the rates, lower the poundage below 24,000. The director of operation has the discretion to do that if he finds that a street is being torn up by 24,000 pounds. So he has the discretion to street by street lower that tonnage. That's what this,
So you can shut your car down from driving down the street.
well, the cars haven't been carrying up the street so
No,
much.
they're 24,000 pounds or less. But I can drive my truck down there. It's
No, so
over 24.
he could lower it to 12,000 if there was a street that was being destroyed by if you read that whole paragraph, Don, it makes sense. It's the authority to lower weight limits.
Once again, it's awkwardly written if that's the case, and I swear Mr. Dolan will have a very enthusiastic time defending it in court. Because of the way it's worded.
Actually, the way it's worded, probably less is the right one.
May
I
result.
hope he doesn't do it because it would, on his decision, it would make it so people can't drive down the street.
Yeah.
Well, I suspect this is meant to be in cases where you have a cross heave or something, you can put a sign up there saying no vehicles over 10,000 pounds until like when the ambulance barn had that big cross heave. He could have actually come in there and lowered the weight limit down, no trucks more than 10,000 pounds, just to keep the cross heave from getting worse until they had time to fix it. That's why I'm reading that from this is for.
Once again, the wording on it is awkward at best, in my opinion. I understand the principle, what you're trying to say, but I don't think you said it in a clear manner. That's my only concern.
So with that being said, section 1076.050, the very last line.
040.
48.
0140. You're talking about 50.
50, yep. The very last line, 48, needs to be bracketed.
Yep, I got that already.
Good job.
I didn't fix it, it's fixed on the sheet.
Oh, you just want to text me, huh?
Well,
If you
Well,
have
maybe on 40, it ought to just read results from travel of vehicles, period. I'm not worried about what the gross weight of the vehicle is. Because really this is meant to, for something like frost heave or some kind of damage to the street, it might actually be caused by a car, you might have to completely shut it off.
Yeah.
So probably we ought to just end it saying traveling vehicles.
So, your theory is to cross everything off after the word travel.
Vehicles. Right. Because then if there's an issue that, like I said, mainly it'd be frost heaves. And it could be very well a pickup with low logs on it, it's overweight for the frost heave.
So we're saying after travel, get rid of everything thereon, the vehicle, da.
Correct.
The main reason of this ordinance is in case some kind of emergency comes up, it gives the director of operations authority to take care of whatever it is.
Right. I agree with that.
And if there is no ordinance in there, then something happens, he wouldn't have a tough time, they'd have to call a special meeting or something and say, let's let somebody drive down that street.
Yeah.
Would you come up to the microphone, please?
I didn't know that this was going to be a subject tonight, so I came unprepared. But I have lived in my house at the Or Mansion for 38 years, and it backs up to Dillon Street. And I can attest with Mary Jo that those trucks that come down, they're double trailers. No, they're double trailers with a pup, and they just come from Idaho. They come from Phoenix. They come from Thompson. I mean, yes, they do. They destroy the roads. I mean, they just do. But anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we delete the entire section. It's just that one little paragraph that starts with annual permits.
So you're on 10.76.050, the second paragraph.
Right. To keep the first paragraph, which is very good, but just to delete the paragraph beginning with annual permits.
Do we have a second? Second call for a second. Third and last call for a second. Okay, motion failed due to lack of second.
If I can walk us back to page 3, under the item pedestrian. I believe you have defined a bicycle there. Is that correct or incorrect?
That was a tough one.
You do have a definition for bicycle, but I believe this also describes a bicycle.
Just wait till you get to pathway.
I don't think this really said bicycle.
Well, I think,
Other low-powered mechanically propelled vehicle. That's a bicycle.
yeah, but it says designed specifically for use by a physically disabled person.
But not all pedestrians are physically disabled.
True.
And that's why they will be.
Any person or,
But a hand cycle is an adaptive bicycle.
But it's still not a pedestrian.
A pedestrian is any person on foot
I'll go for that.
or any person in a manual or mechanically propelled wheelchair or other low-powered mechanically propelled vehicle designed specifically for use by a physically disabled person. So that or splits the sentence. You have the standard part of what a pedestrian is, person on foot. And then after that, it's pretty much structured for a disabled person. The wheelchair, either manual or mechanical, or any other low-powered mechanically propelled vehicle. That's for the use of the physically disabled.
so if you're in a hover round, you're still a pedestrian, even though it's mechanically propelled. Or an electric wheelchair.
Well, somebody that's on a skateboard, they would be a pedestrian. because they have to stop and cross the walks too. Same with these scooters or whatever they are. Bicycles, and I think it said somewhere that they're supposed to be ridden on the street, not the sidewalks.
They're supposed to be on traffic laws too.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, some do, not many. Okay. On page 5, please. Law enforcement authority is hereby amended as follows. Who are you giving authority to do this to? We know the police officers can. But designated city employees, we're going to have the dog catcher going out and issuing a citation for violating this without any training as far as how to interact with people and what happens if he gets one that's belligerent. Do we really want that liability?
Maybe you could refer that to the chairman.
I think it's disjunctive or designated city employee, doesn't mean you have to have one.
Once again, or designated city employee. I think that needs to be struck, unless we want to provide them all police training.
Well,
Chief,
we
that'd
don't
keep you
have to
busy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I think that what the intent is, and I see it as the intent of like a compliance officer or a
That's
like
exactly
dog
right.
catcher deal.
If you have
dogs, if you have one. So I think that maybe, I guess I don't know what you're trying to do, but it seems to me maybe you're trying to put
It
the,
was a compliance officer.
yeah, trying to get it before something happened on that aspect. Yeah, I'm not gonna be telling people to do certain things if, I don't feel comfortable with it, so.
What it is, you have designated city employed by and that we're acting on behalf of the city of Gilman. Must have the powers granted to a police officer. So you gotta go through whatever training that you need to do for a police officer under the laws of the state of Montana. And not everybody can just be a police officer.
Right, but you can't even designate a city employee if that's the case.
Well, you can set a city employee to go get trained as a police officer.
But you gotta send them to law school, right?
No, but I think that what also is you have to understand here, the power to issue citations for violation of Dillon Municipal Code. You don't have to be a police officer to do that.
Right.
So you don't have to like parking citations and stuff. If you want to designate someone to do that, it's going to be up to the city to decide what they want to do as far as education and training and stuff for municipal code or for Dillon Municipal Codes, for ordinance and stuff. And so I think in here what it's saying is, this is how I read it anyways, is the cops can do all this stuff, but you can also appoint someone else to do what they legally can do. Because legally, I mean, I can't, have BJ go and, arrest somebody for criminal mischief or something like that, but I can, but the city can have them trained and everything for municipal code, whatever they feel is necessary, training-wise. So that's how I read it, and I really didn't have a whole lot to say, but that's how I read it, is it's kind of putting the structure in, so if something were to come along.
How do you protect that person from a belligerent offender?
How do you protect them?
You guys are trained to handle that.
Oh yeah, nobody gets belligerent because we're trained to handle it, so. But yeah, no, and you will get belligerent people. Yeah, so that's up to you guys. I mean, how you want to do that, if that comes to pass. I don't see there's any discussion right
I
now.
think this is just kind of a
Compliance
boilerplate that they
officer.
put in here. In the future, if the city gets big and we have a traffic officer, meter maid sort, then we would be able to authorize her to give tickets under this power. That's another one of those things, you have to have some authority to issue citations, even if right now it's only the police that can do it. In the future, if we ever have a parking program of some sort, or a zoning compliance ticket, or a code enforcement officer, he could be sent through whatever training he needs to do to issue tickets, parking tickets, or whatever. But I think as it stands right now, the only people we have authorized to do it are police officers.
And the one word here I say is that Dillon must have powers granted to police officers under the laws of the state of Montana. of Montana. And such powers include but are not limited to. So I think that what that's saying is we have to come into legal compliance for people that are writing tickets. So I mean, that's simply how I look at it.
Don, many cities have compliance officers. It's very common. They have a zoning compliance officer or a parking compliance officer. Very common.
True, but I hope they have some training.
And they,
And the way this is set up,
as designated as you guys, the council.
yeah,
Like, we designate through a resolution that Todd Hazelbaker is the zoning compliance officer. That's done by you guys with the resolution.
yeah.
There's a bunch of other designations. Your subdivision administrator, your floodplain administrator, your what's ADA compliance or whatever the word, I don't know what that is. You guys, through resolutions, maybe not you personally, but through the council, is designated Todd, he, our director of operations, as the officer with them. So they're the designated city employee.
It says it must follow the laws pertaining to Montana state entities. So you guys couldn't appoint somebody without following the laws of Montana code annotated anyway. So that's why the must, I think, was in there. And I'm wondering.
Yeah, sounds like there is some protection in there. Okay, off to page 6, please. This one's giving me heartburn, I have to confess. Most people, when you ask them about the city, they say, yes, I've got this paved street in front of my house, it's where I park my car. Although, many of them are, but if you park in front of their house, they're gonna tell you about it, because they think that's theirs. So I guess there's a little problem there telling somebody they can't park in front of their place. Well, we give for 5 consecutive days. All right, take a look at this man. I come in on Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. From Friday night until Saturday morning when I go out, I'm illegal. I don't think that's your intent. Is it? I don't think your 5 consecutive days does it. You need to bump that up to 7 or something different.
I thought it was 7.
No, it's 5 here. 7 would make more sense, make it a whole lot easier to enforce.
Well, what they based it on was hours. I think it was 120 hours. And I tried to bump it up, but I got turned down. So
I thought it was 7 statewide.
I agree with you, it should be at least 7 days, but what they're arguing is basically is vehicles that are left and junk vehicles or whatever that are left. That's what they're really trying to target. But this appears that they're targeting, and I had questions because I have an old truck that I don't have off-street parking. And I use all the vehicles. Well, the argument was, well, we weren't going after those that are being used. Well, according to this, like you say, I have to use one of those once a week. Which I do.
You can't move back to the same spot within 20 feet.
Well, and that was another deal that we had, was someone wanted to move it 300 and some odd feet. Well, then you're moving it in to somebody else's
neighbor's house.
So, I think that it should be at least moved to 7 days.
Well, that should make that a motion. We modify the 5 to 7 consecutive days and strike 120 hours.
Second.
Moved by Don, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
I guess, Don, I think that if you talk to anybody in Dillon and you talk about problems within the city, it is that it's almost impossible for after people have parked all their recreational vehicles and their boats and their trailers, and then along both sides of the street, and then you want 2 cars to go like this, and almost, I mean, all over the city, people have encroached on that 20-foot setback from the corners because they just were gonna fit one more toy on the street. And it's become a dangerous situation, Don. This is, especially on, Ward 1, on that east side. Yeah, and you can barely get 2 cars going in different directions with all the vehicles parked on both sides of the street. We need to, right now, there isn't any enforcement, and we're just trying to give the police something that can be enforced, because all of this is mute if there is no enforcement. And right now, we were trying desperately to give, not to make it more lenient, to give the police something that they can use to go after those places. I mean, gosh, there's a car right up the street here that has 2 flat tires. It's been there for 6 months. I mean, we towed a car from that very position last year in order to have the tree trimmed. And there's a car parked right there with 2 flat tires. I mean, those are the kind of vehicles. We didn't build these streets to be a storage area for people's excess vehicles. They need to park them in their own yard.
That is exactly what they've become though, because of the way we have our town set up. Now, I don't know about your depth of perception, but I can run 2 semis down any street in Ward 1 with cars or trailers parked at the curb. There's not a problem any place in Ward 1 that I'm aware of. None. The streets are wide enough. in Ward 1.
But you can't turn a corner in Ward 4.
Well, maybe,
It
but
is
I'm not in Ward
amazing.
4.
Amazing.
And also now, if you're parked too close to the corner, that's a different story. No question. If you got a car with 5 tires, that's something different too. If you got a car without the engine in it, that's something different. I fully agree with that. But here you're after the RVs, and they're not part of that.
If you bring it back on Sunday night, and then somebody happens to notice it Monday morning, and you leave the next Saturday morning, you're just fine, Dawn. You're just fine.
No, but you still can get cited. You may be a criminal.
You can leave it there right now for 10 years, and you're not going to get cited.
There's a difference there. The police have too much to do than worry about where you're parked. And I think that's what they ought to be doing, is something other than where I'm parked, in all complete honesty. I like my safe town. I really do. So let's not burden them or some other city designated official with having to go out and run around and do this kind of monkey business. That's not a Dillon-friendly thing. We've been parking on the street since before we were kids.
But we haven't been storing our vehicles
Yes,
on the
we
street.
have.
No,
We have some houses you can't park anyplace but on the street.
People have 4 and 5.
Yes.
4 and 5, and that's where we built the streets as a storage area for their excess vehicles. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you build a street with a parking area. Why can't they use it? As long as it doesn't interfere with somebody else, what's the problem?
Right now, it's getting hard to drive I mean, you want to go on Vine Street any morning and see if you can get 2 cars going in opposite directions on Vine Street any morning.
You can on Vine as long as there's nobody parked at the curb.
Everybody's parked at the curb. Are you kidding? Everybody's parked at the curb.
That's true. That is an exception street. It's narrower than most of the rest of the streets in town.
Monroe Street. You want to go down Monroe Street?
Monroe's not a problem either.
It is a problem. It is a problem.
I'm here.
I mean, I drove down Washington Street yesterday, and I drove down Railroad Street this morning, and there were cars parked on both sides of the street, and here came a car And it was an older driver, and she drove straight down the middle of the street. And boy, I mean, I had to pull over, she would have hit me.
Is it the street problem, the parked cars problem, or the driver's problem?
It's her perception, there are so many cars parked on both sides of the streets. The
Once again, is it a
streets,
perception problem by the driver?
the streets have narrowed, Don, the streets
Yeah.
have narrowed.
They're the same width they always were since we applied.
Not since we started storing storing vehicles.
Once again, is there any problem with storing a licensed, registered, insured vehicle at the curb? As long as it's away from the corners, it's not blocking the neighbor's driveway, I don't see a problem with letting it park there. I really don't. I think you're creating a problem and looking for a solution.
I,
Just because, mainly because somebody thought it wasn't pretty to park there.
no, that's not the reason, it's a safety issue.
There's no safety involved.
Yes, there
Even
is.
the fire trucks can make enough go down the street.
And you can talk as loud as you want, Don. It's a safety issue.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Well, I agree to disagree.
Well, first of all, I think 5 days is adequate. It's very adequate. In my neighborhood, I usually come in Dillard Street, and I have a neighbor, and he has 8 vehicles, and he lives in a really small area. I won't say who it is, but it's in Gary Briggs' old house, let's just say that. And there's no room for him to park, so I understand he's got to park all over the neighborhood. And he really should find a storage unit or something everybody else does. My other, he parks everywhere, and there's 8 to 10 cars. And my other neighbor, and I don't mind saying that, he doesn't mind, Jerry Hawkins, he says that they're using our neighborhood for his own personal parking spot, or no, his own parking lot. And I remember I came back from Salt Lake about 3 weeks ago, because I had to go to my brother's funeral. And I had to get into my sheds, which are in the back of my house, and I couldn't because this person had a truck and a trailer with a one of those cars on it. I don't know what they're called. And then another trailer, and I couldn't get in really easily. I mean, it was very difficult. And it's real awkward to ask a neighbor to move their car. But he's had a trailer right across from your mother's house there for a year. So, I mean, it does get a little inconvenient. So I think 5 days is fine. However, when I came back, I remember in the mail I got my property taxes, and they said that we're charged by the foot in the front of our property. And I thought, okay, if I have 60 feet, just for instance, and I'm being charged for 60 feet, but I don't get to use it. My neighborhood gets to use it, but I don't get to use it. Do you know what I mean? So it's a little bit frustrating. You know, I can't park in front of my house or use something or clean it or whatever because everybody else is using it. And yet you're paying for the frontage of your property in your property taxes. I just learned that just recently. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think, not to argue with you, I don't think you get charged.
What?
I don't think you get charged property tax on the streets. You get an assessment, a street maintenance assessment. But there's a calculation on how to calculate. Part of it is square footage, part of it's a fixed cost. But none of it's a linear footage anymore. But that won't be what came from the state. That was property only, not streets. So.
There's a motion on the table to change this
portion. Call for a question?
Yes.
Question been called for to change on page 6 under 10, 12, 20. The second paragraph, there's a second line that says not to exceed 5 consecutive days, change it to 7 consecutive days. And then whatever the hours calculated with 7 days. That's the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Don,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Russ,
Aye.
Don, Dan,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Raymond,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mary Jo.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it, it's changed.
Okay, moving on to page 12, I just have one question between items A and item C under 10-4100 parking in alleys. I believe item A and item C conflict. Anybody else notice that?
Well, what part do you think conflicts?
Well, one place says you can't park there, another place says you can park there for up to 48 hours. Is that really what was intended?
No, but here's how I read it. This is me. First one's talking explicitly for C3. The alley's in a C3. The part C talks about everything besides C3.
Oh, other than, okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then those are all, you can't park in any other alleys in the city longer than 48 hours. Except C3. And C3 is even shorter. You can't park except if you're going to load or unload.
Okay. All right, sorry I missed that first time through. I got a simple one though on page 13 of 25 under 15-minute parking. The first line, the director of operations of designated city representative, is supposed to be or?
Yeah. We'll change that without a vote.
On page 16 to 25, under toy vehicles, skateboards, rollerblades, and roller skates, how do you want to address the skate park? Because according to this, you're not allowed to use it on any public property. Specifically, item B, within any city-owned parking facility or structure within the city limits.
Except a duly established skate park.
That'll work. Sure.
Is that a motion?
Please.
Second.
Okay, the motion been made by Don, seconded by Russ. We'll add except for
Except a duly established skate park.
Okay?
Call for the question.
Any questions been called for to add to the, on page 16, section 10.93.010, part B, we're going to add at the end of that line, except a duly established skate park. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous.
Okay, then, on that same grouping under item E, Every person operating a skateboard from a device can all the rights and subject to all duties. Typical driver of any vehicle, they're not supposed to be on the street with them, are they? But now you're saying they're a vehicle and they're allowed.
Well, C says you must ride near to the right side of the roadway. So.
Skateboard though?
Yeah, part of C.
Okay. I'll give you that one. At the bottom, 17, top of page 18, we're talking about, we have a golf cart, we're driving it on the street. Yeah, which is legal under state laws. It can actually be recognized when the first one's had the enabling action to do it. Item F, a mirror that reflects to the driver a view of the highway. Is this to the right, to the left, in front, or behind? On the top of page 18.
Okay.
A view of the roadway.
Okay, so a mirror that reflects to the driver a view of the highway. What view are you in reference to? Usually a mirror is for what's behind you.
Mirror is for reverse.
Rear view. But that's not what this line says.
How about a mirror that reflects the driver, a view of the highway from the rear of the vehicle?
Excellent, thank you.
View of the highway from the rear of the
Move to amend.
Second.
It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Diane. Further discussion.
Call for the question.
Question has been called for to amend and add an end to part F of 10.95.030, golf carts permitted, part A, part 2, part F. At the end of that, put from the rear of the vehicle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous.
Thank you. Same page 18, lights at crossings. Third line down ends in Helena, so it's railroad crosses the streets known as Bannock Street and Helena Street within the said city. Helena Street is a closed crossing to the railroad and has been for umpteen years now. Is that supposed to be Raider Street by chance? That's it.
It's Raider.
Riverhead.
It's Raider. Raider has lights.
Raider
has
has
lights.
The next one down's got lights.
Bannock.
And we go the other way, go north.
Franklin.
Franklin. So we're gonna ask the railroad to put in lights on Franklin, is that what I'm hearing here? Was that what I'm understanding by this portion?
Why don't just get rid of no one as Bannock Street and Helena Street? And I think that covers all the crossings.
Okay.
Because you're right, there are more.
Move to amend.
Second.
It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Dan. And discussion, further discussion.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to amend section 10.96.070, lights and crossings, third line after railway and railroads crosses the street. Will remove known as Bannock Street and Helena Street. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous.
And then we wander off to page 21 and 25 under the residential parking permit form and issuances. Under item A, the last sentence, it says permit shall, crossed out, may, underlined, be issued by the city. Is that may supposed to be a must by chance in keeping with the format?
Say that again.
Where it says permit shall, crossed out, then may, underlined, should the word may be must instead?
May.
Under item A on page 21 and 25, first A.
That's the last line.
Being under 10.97.40.
Yes.
That must be must.
Oh, may be issued by the city. It's a must.
You just seem biased the way it was written.
Let's see if another one.
Yeah, there's one down,
The fourth one.
animal permits shall, may, and should be must.
Nah.
And there's another one. All the mays should be turned to must.
Second.
Except that we, this is one of those parts of the ordinance where, and if you go back up to 10.97.010, it's where you establish a parking permit area, residential parking permit area. And we don't have any of those areas. So that's kind of, we're kind of doing uncharted waters at this point. But if we were to create a residential parking permit area, then some of those things can, I think we didn't want to lock ourselves into, it must be done this way or that way, or we've never done that before, Dawn, and we're just not quite sure how that's going to work if it's ever created in Dillon.
And I imagine the way we've been changing them all from mays to must.
I know.
I think that on Part B, the annual permits, I think should stay may, because that still leaves you guys an opening to not have to require. But the next one should be must. A permit must be valid no longer. I think the middle one should be left may.
So you're saying item A should still be a may?
And your permits, 1, 2, 3, 4, line down, the far right may.
The annual
Oh, I missed that one.
may be required. But the other one should be must.
Must.
Okay.
Any other?
Let's go ahead and call for the question on that one.
Question on?
On mays and musts. Or do you need those?
Yeah, it's one, I don't.
Don't need it?
Anybody
Okay.
have a problem doing it? Okay, then it's not.
Okay.
Let's move on. We'll just,
Okay,
they're
page
changed.
23 to 25, the top of the page, I just have a general question on that. The guidelines of established by the chief of police and police officers may remove or order tow away motor vehicles. In another spot, we give authority to a designated official to lock up wheels on cars. Here you're allowing the police to tow them away. Is it just the police or may the designated official do it as well? Let's put the boot on the car. I believe when you're impounding somebody's personal property, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, we don't have any boots. I'm not aware of any boots.
Well, how about that?
Yeah, well, and the really hard thing about this too, as we've discussed it in nauseam, as Dan said earlier, is people aren't willing to tow them. The tow companies, there's nowhere to store them. We can't tow them because we don't have the ability to store them anywhere either. So that's what we come into, but hopefully that will change. But yeah, I'm not aware of any boots that we have.
But once again, do we only want the police doing that, or do you want designated officials doing it as well? Okay. I'll have to find that section again that we can change. That should complete my corrections at this point. Thank you.
Is there any others that hasn't already been discussed?
Call for the question.
Okay, we're at the point, the question is to approve the first reading of the ordinance revisions to Title 10 Vehicles and Traffic as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Mary Jo.
Nay.
John. Aye. Raymond. Aye. Bill. Gone. Dan.
Aye.
Russ.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
6%.
Don.
That's too many Ds.
Regrettably, aye.
Okay, the ordinance passes first reading as amended.
If this does pass third reading, zoning's gonna have to change some of their stuff now too.
Yes. Because there's context.
Well, that was one discussion brought up that we should, but because it would be easier to do it on city council because all of us are either on one board or the other, so then you have a conflict because if we talk to you about it, then we have an open meeting problem. So
But it's gonna be a resolution adjusting the zoning to follow.
Now what I'm gonna do is, like I've done all the other ordinances that we've worked on, I will make all the changes and including all of the highlighted ones. So the next one will be a clean version, so you can see what it's gonna look like. All the changes, insertions and deletions will be gone. And I'll add whatever assertions or insertions or deletions you guys added tonight. So then you have a clean version to vote on next time. Okay, next item, Finance Committee, Mr. Hand.
In your package, you'll find our meeting minutes from July 1st. I ask your acceptance.
Move to approve.
It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Dan, discussion. Questions being called for to approve the July 1st, 2021 meeting minutes of the Finance Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take it as unanimous.
And then I ask you to approve the line item budget report for June 2021, to approve the fund summary for claims for June 2021, approve the claims by vendor report for June 2021, and approve the budget versus actual report for June 2021.
Move to approve. Second.
Been moved by Bill, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
Call for the question.
Question has been called for to approve the line item budget report for June 2021, the fund summary for claims for June 2021, the claims by vendor report for June 2021, and the budget versus actual report for June 2021. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. We take that as unanimous.
I should point out that virtually all of our budget numbers were extremely close to being right on. We only exceeded in what, 1, 2, 3 spots, and it wasn't by much. We underestimated a number of other ones, or overestimated them. So we did extremely well. The mayor's forecasting worked extremely well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That completes my report.
Next item, Fire and Order Committee, Mr. Schaefer.
No meeting.
Health and Welfare, Mr. McGinley.
No meeting.
Cemetery, Mr. Hand.
No meeting.
Parks Committee, Mr. Rourke.
No.
City Health Committee, Mr. Grant.
For you, you will find the minutes of our June 17, 2021 meeting. Ask for your approval.
Move to approve. Second.
Been moved by Bill, seconded by Russ. Discussion.
Yeah, I'm guessing item number 2, the second line down where it says the proposal is for combing the 2 restrooms. I'm assuming it's supposed to be combining.
Yeah, combining.
What's that, combing?
Yeah, and hair product too.
On page 3 of 3, the committee members need an update as well. I don't believe Mr. Wassel was part of that committee when this meeting was held.
In spirit.
Got a new name for John.
Harsh.
All we can do is a copy of past minutes, and they never get changed. It sort of carries on. We'll correct this one. Any other change to it? Or amending?
Call for the question.
Question has been called for to approve the June 17, 2021 meeting minutes of the City Hall Committee as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
And if you
It
see
is unanimous.
what come out of our meeting, we were discussing the proposal to purchase the Frontier Event Center, and we kind of decided that something that's important now to take to the whole council to say yea or nay to. So that's the reason we have it listed on there. We brought it forward without really a recommendation. Just a discussion. I don't know how the other council people feel like it. I know I personally thought that this was probably not anything the city really wanted to take up. But again, something is important. I think the whole council ought to be, have some input on it.
Well, there's some large bills there, as far as heating and whatnot, and then all the remodeling you have to do. So I would say about $1 million.
Plus, you have to hire some extra people just to run it, because we don't have the employees even a chance of running it. So all of that's gonna increase some costs.
Suppose we take a step forward though, and look at it from a forward look. What happens if we move the entire city hall over there?
You're stuck with a hard sale here.
Wrong.
Is it not asbestos here? Isn't that the code? Good luck finding a buyer. I think you gotta look at it and say, here's my current building, here's my current cost projection. There's that building, current cost, level it, re-amend or update it, then you gotta start comparing final numbers, folks. Just visionary and being wishful thinkers. Amen. You know, I believe that was, who sang that song? Dreamers. You know, it's great to be visionary, but I think the reality is, folks, you gotta look at your numbers here, your numbers there before you even push forward.
What I'm saying is I don't think we need to carry it forward as an event center per se. I can see more of a public municipality facility. So I don't know, you know, we're cramped for space here. There's some renovations have been suggested and massage for this building. Some of them which I think probably wouldn't be needed if we did a careful research of what we really want the building to be and how we want it used. That building can fit everything into and still have some room left over. But you're right, Russ, it will cost a lot of money to do it. You will have this white elephant left afterwards. This might be a place for the library to expand into, for example.
Good answer.
Give them lots of room. So that's just something to consider. I want the council at least, you know, if we don't at least bring it up to think about, we're not really doing our job. But look at all the options we can come up with. That's the only reason I presented it this time.
Well, even if you did that and turned it over to the library, they still have to bring this building up to ADA.
Correct. We're stuck.
You still don't have ADA.
Only if you're gonna use upstairs and downstairs.
No, we don't have ramp here. This ramp is in
Those
progress.
are cheap.
You still got the bathrooms have to be brought up.
So let's say you're 15 grand in the hole.
Well,
That's
and
pretty
how
cheap.
much more in the hole we're gonna be over
Well,
there.
that's a different one. That's a different part of the project. But you're right. You're right.
I think it's a great idea. I just think right now on the public side, the city taking on something like that and you're digging up $12 a month and the streets and the repair and everything else, I think you're really out of reality with what the public's perception is of the damn city and what the hell you're all doing. Sorry. Y'all know me, I speak the frickin' truth.
I would venture to guess the money we had to put into that building would actually make a big improvement to a lot of streets in the city. I'm sure that to move over to that building and improve it, I bet we would be looking close to $4 to $5 million by the time remodeling and then and then you're looking at the loss of taxes. You take that, you know, also you block off the street maintenance, that's a pretty big hit right there on its own.
How much tax does come off that building every year, Mr. Mayor, do you know?
He says, he says 30,000, or he's behind 30,000?
He has some tax issues.
I don't remember on how much, but it's gotta be at least 10. 10,000.
Mr. Mayor, is it possible to not make any recommendation and to just keep this as an open thing? And if Mr. Johnson comes back with some other kind of proposal that that maybe the trading of money, there isn't so much money involved, or there's more of a trading of services or something else, or tax abatement, or some kind of relief from taxes, and if it came back as a $1 deal, then maybe we could look at that. I mean, there are maybe some other areas that he has needs that we could take care of.
Worth considering, no doubt.
Okay. I'll just pull it off for now, but if he comes back and gives us another offer, I'll put it back on. Discuss that offer.
Well, and maybe if we just even suggest to him that he be thinking outside the box a little bit on this, that there are some other land transaction, you know, methods that we could utilize, and then come up with that property. And even if it was another big dirt lot, which I'm sure we need another big dirt lot, but
Great. Okay. That be it, Raymond? That concludes my meeting minutes. Hoping to conclude whatever. There's no problem if we be done by 8:15.
I know, I'm so
It's in
sorry.
some time zone.
Yeah, right?
Raymond, it's Dawn's fault.
Street and Alley Committee, Mr. Nye.
No meeting, no report.
Water Sewer, Mr. Hand.
No meeting, no report.
Okay, last item, public comment on items of significant public interest not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the city.
Nothing for me.
Really?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Bill made the motion to adjourn, Russ seconded. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
My stash is in the end.
Means adjourned.